A Rabbinic Anthology selected by C.G. Montefiore and H.Loewe. At the end of Herbert Lowe's introduction, I have appended the part that contains the abbreviations. Chapter 17 on industry and independence, on poverty and riches. In spite of all their insistence on charity, the rabbis were intensely keen on independence, on industry, and on the rightness of work. 1219, Betts 32b, 3 lives are no lives. He who looks for the table of others, he who is ruled by his wife, he whose body is overcome by sufferings, and some say he who has only one shirt. Betts 32b. And a lot of cultures talk about that controlled by women thing. And by suffering, I'm sure they mean difficulty. 1220, Midrash Psalm on 23:1, 99b, section 3. It is written, the Lord will bless thee in all the work of thy hands. Deuteronomy 2:7. Or Jacob said, one might think that he will bless us even if we are idle. Therefore it says, in all the work of thy hands. If a man works, he is blessed. If not, he is not blessed. Midrash Psalm on 23:1, 99b, section 3. 1221. Our Judah carried a jug, and our Simeon a basket into the house of study. They said, great is handicraft, for it honors those who do it. Ned 49b, see selection 1230, which we may get to in this program. 1222, TJ San 11, section 7, folio 30b, line 68. Hire yourself out to a work which is strange to you, rather than become dependent on others. TJ San 11, section 7, folio 30b, line 68. 1223, Qid 4:14, Professor Danby's translation, see selection 362. When a man falls into sickness or old age or troubles and cannot engage in his work, lo, he dies of hunger. But with the law it is not so, for it guards him from all evil while he is young, and in old age it grants him a future and a hope of his youth. What does it say? They that wait upon the Lord, probably a mistranslation of God as a verb and noun, increasing existence, establishing established, shall renew their strength. Isaiah 40:31. Of his old age, what does it say? They shall still bring forth fruit in old age. Psalm 92, verse 14. Qid 4:14, Professor Danby's translation, C 362. 1224, Qid 82a, finish 82b. Bara said, let a man always teach his son a clean and easy handicraft. What is such? Our Judah said, embroidery. Rabbi said, there is no handicraft which can disappear from the world. Happy is he whom his parents see engaged in a respected handicraft. Woe to him whom his parents are engaged in an inferior handicraft. The world cannot exist without druggists or tanners. Happy is he whose handicraft is that of a druggist, and woe to him whose handicraft is that of a tanner. The world cannot exist without men and women. Happy is he whose children are sons, and woe to him whose children are women. Our heir said, let a man ever teach his son a clean and easy handicraft, and let him pray to God, to whom belong riches and possessions. For riches and poverty do not come from handicrafts, but from him to whom Riches belong, as it is said, for mine is the silver and gold, says the Lord of hosts. Yahweh Tzbaot. Haggai 2:8. Kid 82a, finished 82b. The two woes must not be taken too literally and strictly, where we should say, they are fortunate whose children are boys or whose sons are druggists, rather than tanners. The Oriental uses terms which seem to us strange and exaggerated for tanners and druggists. Shops, see 1368. For rabbi, see 419, 1225. Bab B, 110a. There was a legend that the young man of Judges 18:3 defended himself for serving as an idolatrous priest by saying, "There is a tradition in our family, rather hire yourself out for idolatry than require the help of others." He, however, mistook the meaning of the term strange service in the saying, which here is not to be taken in the usual applied sense to mean idolatry, but literally, for the saying means, rather than require the help of your fellows, accept work which is strange to you, i.e., beneath your dignity. So Rab said to our Kahana, skin the corpse of an animal in the public street and accept a wage for doing so, and do not say, I am a great man, this work does not befit me. Bab B, 110a, 1226. Akiva said, rather make your Sabbath a weekday than need the help of your fellow man. Pes 112a. H.L.'s note. It is laid down in the Mishnah, Pes 10.1. See further in the Gemara, Pes 112a, that on the Passover Eve, not even the poorest Israelite should sup without reclining at the triclinium, for slaves ate their meals sitting upright, while the triclinium was the privilege of the free. On this night, everyone was to be free, and by this symbolic action, men would demonstrate their gratitude for the divine redemption. Similarly, however poor be the Israelite, he must drink his 4 cups of wine on Passover Eve, again as a symbol, even though he be dependent on poor relief given in kind, the tamchui, or dish of food. In the Gemara, the discussion begins with the question, why only on Passover Eve? After various digressions, Akiva's saying is cited, rather make your Sabbath a weekday than need the help of your fellow men. This does not mean work on the Sabbath rather than take charity, but refrain from the usual Sabbath luxuries rather than beg. The Gemara remarks that the adage in the Mishnah about Passover and the poor man is needed because of Akiva's remark, yet Akiva agrees that on Passover the poor man should buy or receive from the tamchui 4 cups because of publishing the miracle, i.e. of showing his appreciation of the divine redemption. Now the Sabbath was also a declaration of this kind, since in the Deuteronomic Decalogue, the reason for Sabbath observance is the Exodus. Special food on the Sabbath, therefore, also publishes the miracle, as the Gemara puts it. The same phrase is used in the codes in connection with the deliverance from Haman, Megillah 3b, and also with regard to the prominent displaying of the Chanukah light. It is a cheth, so you don't just say Hanukkah, The inquirer who asks why a Jew is lighting the light, or having extra food, or drinking 4 cups of wine, will be told the reason, and so the miracle in each case will be published. In the colleague of Elijah, it was taught that although Akiva made this remark about the Sabbath, yet one should provide some trifle to differentiate the Sabbath from the weekday meal, i.e. to publish the miracle. What sort of a trifle? Promptly asks the Gemara. A pie of fish hash and flour, said R. Papa, and immediately there follows, most incongruously, the remark of R. Judah B. Tema, given also in Abbott 5:20, be fierce as a leopard, swift as an eagle, light as a roe, and strong as a lion, to do the will of thy Father in heaven, i.e. to spend a little money for your Sabbath dinner. And that concludes H.L.'s note. And remember the thing about the Father, without going into some Joseph Campbell sort of interpretation, it also means provider, center, that sort of stuff. So you could even take it literally and not understand deity in the familial sense. As a male who, has children and all that. 1227, bear 8a, Ula said, greater is he who enjoys the fruit of his labor than the fearer of heaven. With regard to the fearer of heaven, it is written, happy is the man that fears the Lord. Psalm 112:1. But with regard to him who enjoys the fruit of his labor, it is written, when thou eatest the labor of thy hands, happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee. Psalm 128:2. Happy shalt thou be in this world, and it shall be well with thee in the world to come. It is not written, and it shall be well with thee, about the fearer of heaven. Bear 8a. 1228. Tanch Wayetz, section 13, folio 52b. When Laban was overtaking Jacob, God warned him, saying, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Genesis 31:24. From this passage we learn that the merit of labor avails where the merit of ancestry cannot. Jacob said, except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely thou hadst sent me away empty. Genesis 31:42. Thus the merit of ancestry sufficed only to protect Jacob's property and not his life. But Jacob then went on to say, it was my toil and the labor of my hands that God saw when he rebuked thee yesterday and saved my life. For it was through the merit of labor that God warned Laban not to harm Jacob. Learn then that a man should not say, I will eat and drink and enjoy good, and I will not burden myself, for heaven will look after me. Therefore it says, his handiwork hast thou blessed. Job 1:10. It is incumbent on a man to toil and work with his two hands, and then God sends his blessing. Tanch Wayetze, section 113, folio 52b, 1229, T. Bear 7:8, Z, page 15, line 17. R. The Setai B. Yenai said in the name of R. Me'er, it says, I am with thee, i.e. Isaac, and I will bless thee. Genesis 26:24. Isaac expounded the saying and said, no blessing rests on a man except by the work of his hands. So he arose and sowed, as it says. Then Isaac sowed that land. Genesis 26:12. T. Bearer 7:8, Z, page 15, line 17. 1230, T. Bab K. I should just say Q because it's the dot beneath. 710, Z, 359, line 2, C selection 1221. Or just listen to these programs in order. For stealing an ox, the thief restores fivefold, but for a lamb, only fourfold. Exodus 22:1. Our Me'er said, see how beloved is labor to him who spake and the world existed. Fivefold compensation is exacted for the ox because the thief interrupted its labor. But since the lamb does not labor, the compensation is but fourfold. R. Johanan B. Zakkai said, see how God cares for human dignity. The ox walks on its own feet, but the lamb is picked up and carried. T. Bab Q. 710, see page 359, line 2. See selection 1221. 1231, Ecclesiastes R, 11, section 9, initial, on 9924A, are Judah the prince, said in the name of the band of pious men, get you a handicraft as well as the Torah, for this is the meaning of live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest. Why did he call them the band of pious men? Because among them were R. Joseph and R. Simeon, who divided the time thus: a third for the Torah, a third for prayer, and a third for work. Some say that they labored in the Torah all the winter, at the work all the summer. For this band, see JESV, Adah, Kenosha, see selection 786, Ecclesiastes R, 11, section 9, initial, on 9924A. The wife must here be understood to mean the Torah.